So this is an idol of the sun god. He is facing east, and look at how brilliant the statue is, the idol is, right? And now the sun god is facing west. The sun is behind the idol. Now look at the idol. Let's talk about this. Namaste. Welcome to Kaivalya Yoga Gurukulam, KYG. Thank you for taking time to watch this video. Today I'm going to touch upon an interesting concept called the Vastu, the directions that we face when we sleep or when we cook or when we pray. Most importantly, the direction of the altar in our home, and what is the general directions of temples, the traditional ones at least. So I'm going to talk about the temple direction and the direction of altars in our home, just because I've received at least 3 or 4 emails with questions regarding to that. Now this is purely my perspectives, the way I have made peace with this concept. So please bear with me. You're welcome to differ in your opinions, and please do comments on these vlogs so that we all learn and share your comments and your perspectives as well. Alright, first let's talk about the temples. In temples, all of the deities in the traditional temples, which are at least 2,000-3,000 years old, the deities are facing east, and we enter from the east, right? So this is a very simple concept to understand. I often wondered why that is so. And then when I actually started visiting temples, it began to make sense. Early in the morning, when you visit a temple and you want to have, let us say, what is called darshan, you want to get a beautiful vision of the idol. Look what happens when you are entering from the east. Now the sun is facing me, so you, let us assume you are facing me, so you are in the east, and let's see what happens. So let's see. So you are walking into the temple. Where is the idol facing? The idol is on the western side, but it is facing east, right? The idol is facing east. So when you come in the morning through what they call the Rajagopuram, the main entrance facing east, when you come from there, you get a beautiful vision of the idol. Now it's a different point that the temples got bigger and bigger, and the main sanctum sanctorum got clouded and literally buried in this mass constructions of where kings began to honor, and it became a social a place for social gathering, and communities gathered and all of that. So all of that is happened in course of time. But the original idol that was installed, whether it is Payani Murugan in on top of a temple or a Shiva lingam, the idea was when you face early morning, you see a reflection of the sun on them. The deity begins to reflect the sun, and so you see a brilliant deity. What if this was the other way around? So let's take a look at that. Let's go around here. Alright, so now I have the sun behind me. In other words, you are facing east. Alright, so let's see what happens. You're coming into the temple and you get darshan early in the morning. You come to see the deity, and see, what do you see? You see a dark image. Why? Because the sun is at the back. You see the shadow. You're not seeing the reflection of the sun. You're seeing a shadow. And this is not the image you want to carry with you the rest of the day. So the Rishis and the saints, it's pretty common sense. They said early in the morning when you enter the temple, and it was always early morning visits those days. It's a different matter. We visit different times. But then when you go early morning and you look at the temple, you see the sun shining. Alright. So this is the same concept applied when they had the copper pot on the top of a gopuram, or a big tower that represented the tallest structure in those days in that town, in that city. On top of that gopuram or the tower was a copper vessel that represented the deity in the temple, and that copper vessel would reflect beautifully when you see it from the east, because it was reflecting the east and the sun. So in temples, it made sense that the idol faced east, and so you entered from the east. Let's come this side. So now look at now look at the deity again. It's so beautiful, right? And that's number one. Number two is there is a very important principle here, very rarely known. The best way to receive sunlight into your eyes is not by gazing into the sun directly. This was taught by a wonderful, wonderful devotee of Baba. A very old devotee, was my guru in yoga, and he said this so wonderfully. He said, never stare into the sun directly, because that is not how it's meant to be. Then I asked him, then how do you do Trataka, or how do you gaze into the sun? He said, the best way to do it, and I've been practicing that ever since, is to get it reflected off an object. So, and he explained how the Rishis and the saints did this in those days. They would stare at the copper pot on top of the Gopuram, on the tower, and the sunlight reflected from copper, brass or bronze. The gold from that should enter your eyes, should bathe your skin. When the gold is reflected from the sun on a brass, bronze or copper, either pot or a statue, and it's reflected into your eyes, or rather your skin, that has tremendous health benefits. It helps in building a lot of immunity just at the level of skin, and then through the eyes you get the energy of the sun. You're able to absorb, and it helps in so many other things. We'll discuss this more in some other day. But this is the important part. This is why in temples alone the deity was facing east, and this is why you need to face west in a temple, because you get to see the reflection of the sun. The deity reflects the cosmic energy through the idol. Now let's go and see the altar inside the home. Now in our home, the KYG altar faces northeast. That is how the house is, and that's how it kind of got set. If I had to make it facing east, then it would have become too much corner, and we wouldn't have had the spread, because the entire wall is facing northeast. Now, personally, I would like to face east or northeast when I do my worship, when I do my meditation, when I do my yoga and things like that. Why? Because I know that the sun has risen in the east. And when the sun rises in the east, the whole universe is flooded from there. The planet Earth at this moment in our hemisphere, in this Western hemisphere, is flooded from there. And so I know that this light in this room, even though it comes from a window behind me, the light is actually coming from east. And so in my mind, I acknowledge the very source of light that is flooding my home. And therefore, I face east. Inside my home, I face east. In a temple, I am facing west and going into the temple. So there are two different directions. Now, in your home, there are people who place the altar in the east, and that's okay if it works with you. But for me, if I put my back to the east in the mornings, then it feels like I'm showing my back to the sun. And therefore, for me, it doesn't make sense. For me, I'd like to face. So an altar at home ideally should face west. In other words, it is placed in east facing west. In the temple, it's exactly the other way around. So this was something I wanted to share, because people have been asking what direction should the altar face. At home, it really doesn't matter. So when I sit here and I do our pujas, we don't really face east, we do northeast. Now in a yogic term, north represents Sahasrara. East represents Agnya Chakra. So when I'm facing east, I'm actually facing east, which is up here. East, which could be up here, it could be here as well. The heart chakra and the Agnya Chakra, because this is the eastern side of the body. So when I face northeast, it goes towards the Agnya Chakra, north and east. If I'm facing purely the east, it becomes the heart chakra. So that is how I relate to it. There could be difference in opinions, and that's perfectly okay. You have to figure out and find peace for your own altar and your home, and say, this is how I like it, this is how somehow it's got settled. And in the ultimate analysis, the idea of directions is helpful to a point. After that, it really doesn't matter. Why? because the Shiva consciousness is Digambara. Dikambara means in all direction he exists. So there is nothing like a bad direction and a good direction, in my humble opinion. Every direction ultimately is divine, has a purpose to serve. However, in the beginning, if you feel comfortable and want to make peace with one particular direction, because like I said, it helps me to connect with the heart chakra to the sun, it helps me connect to the third eye and the Sahasrara when I face northeast and things like that, then go with that idea. So meditate on these concepts and let me know what you think. Please don't feel shy to post your comments below. Let's carry on this discussion. Stay blessed, stay inspired, and thank you for watching as always. Namaste.